What's going on, everybody? Godzilla Options here. In this inaugural weekly watch series episode, we have a few stocks that are interesting to us for the week of January 17th, 2023. The market is closed Monday to observe Martin Luther King Day, so enjoy the day off, do something with your family, try not to work. I'm going to start this off with a list of some strat setups that are of interest to us. Then we're going to move on to some stocks with juicy technical analysis setups mixed in with the strat. So buckle up, get ready, here we go. First on the list is FedEx or FDX. It's already gone 2 up on the month and also went 2 up this past week. It had some down days Thursday and Friday, which ended up creating this shooter candle here on the weekly. The actionable entry trigger would be when the price gets below 185.69, which is the previous week's low, and that would create a 2-2 reversal on the weekly. My only concern would be a retest of December's high, which is the blue bar here at 184.39, and then we move back up. If we do fall through that area, my first price target is going to be 180.88, then 178.34, and then lastly 174.53, which is the low from 2 weeks ago. Next up are 2 bank stocks that reported earnings this past week. The first one we're going to go over is Bank of America, or BAC. And it created an outside week and an outside day on Friday alone. I'm mainly curious to see range expansion to the upside above the weekly high of 35.39, or if we end up seeing people taking their profits and price coming back inside the previous week. If we do see a continued move upward, I'd grab some calls with moderate price targets of 35.89 and then 36.29. If we do see a sell-off and it comes back inside on the previous week, beware of mother bar problems. In this case, I'm going to be looking on a smaller time frame like the 15-minute, 30-minute, 1 hour for potential strat setups that could give me a scalp play. Next on my watch list is Wells Fargo, or WFC, which did the same as Bank of America and made an outside week and day on Friday because of earnings. The main difference between the 2 banks is that Wells Fargo's upward price target is a little bit better with a higher magnitude and an entry over $44.36, with that price target being $45.88 to the upside. The other difference between the 2 is that Wells Fargo option chains are slightly more expensive than Bank of America's, but don't let that sway you one way or another. The first stock we're going to look at in the technical analysis series is NVDA, or NVDA. Starting with the monthly chart over here on the left, we have a bit of a bull flag that's formed with price squarely in the middle right now. So we could see more sideways movement before a true direction is decided. Moving on to the weekly, we have a nice inverse head and shoulders pattern that's formed. Let me zoom out. With a neckline of about 187.90. If it breaks through this and the level ends up acting as support, I'll go along and get some calls. My price targets would be happy numbers, starting with 200, zooming back in here. Starting with 200, 202, and then 204. Having a possible scalp plan, if it doesn't hold support on the previous week's high of 169.22, is a pretty good plan, especially if it comes back inside on this previous daily 3-bar that I have marked with a high and low in orange here. I'm looking at puts with price targets of 163.60 and then 160 and 155 to bring us back down towards the previous week's low area. Next up is Microsoft, MSFT. Looking at the monthly chart, it's still trading within the outside bar from November that has a pretty large price range of 213.43 to 255.33. That is the orange lines that you see here, the high and the low. The weekly has a head and shoulders pattern as well, and it's formed with a neckline around 241.38. Back in here so you can see that neckline around 241.38. And it almost got retested again this past Friday, so I'm definitely curious to see what next week holds. If price doesn't hold around this area, I'm looking at puts for a drop back down to the 235, then 230 area. Otherwise, since we did have an inside week, for a breakout play, my entry for calls would be over 239.90, which is the previous week's high, for a price target of 241.38. That's that head and shoulders neckline. And then 245.75, which is the 3-bar high from 2 weeks ago. Last on our list is Tesla, TSLA. Tesla has been suffering for some time, ever since it broke below the 3-bar created back in January of 2020. On the weekly, I want to see price get above 125.95, this yellow line here, which is the previous week's high, for a 2-2 continuation. That's not actionable. I just want it to show that it actually has a heartbeat still. If that happens, I'll drop down to a smaller time frame, such as the daily, the 4-hour, or the 1-hour, and look for an actionable entry. I'm targeting the 155 area up here for some calls. Otherwise, I'm looking at puts if it falls below the previous week's low of 114.92. Again, this yellow bar here, which would create a 2-2 reversal on the weekly. If this happens, I'm going to short with puts with a target of around 108.24, which is the previous month's low. And then if we fall through that, we're looking at 101.81, something that we haven't seen since August 2020. Oh my goodness. What is in store for Tesla? That's going to wrap up this edition of the Weekly Watch. Make sure you join our free trading Discord with the link in the description field to get intraday strat setups with our custom bots. Also remember to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe, and click that bell to get notified when we drop another video. Happy trading!